Good evening, council member. I speak to you today as a property owner and a resident of Rochester, and someone who's deeply concerned about what we're witnessing here today. Rochester has its share of issues. We have the schools, we have poverty, we have crime. There are people here that like to leave over part-time. When 30% of the population of Rochester lives in poverty and a lot of the school kids can't get a decent education, that might as well be a part-time. That's not why I'm here today. I'm here today to say to you that your resolution that you want to pass is one-sided and it doesn't represent the true history of the conflict. And all those people that want a ceasefire, there was a ceasefire on October 6th. There was a ceasefire all of the other times Israel tried to make peace. There was 75 years Israel tried to make peace with its neighbors. 99% of the land was offered, it was turned down. You guys don't have to hear the truth, I'm sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, pause. We're already back into the dynamic that I hopefully would not return to. So please, please allow every speaker to speak. There are many speakers still on the list. We have over 75 individuals still on the list to speak. And I would like to hear from all individuals tonight. So please, we're gonna give 10 seconds back and then we will start the clock again in 10 seconds. And gentlemen, please.
Thank you very much. For 75 years, Israel has tried to make peace. And there have been many reasons.
All right, pause again. The next person that does that in a way that is disruptive to the speaker, we're gonna ask security to please ask them to pause them. We are gonna allow 10 more seconds for the gentleman to please continue speaking, and we would ask that please, no one interrupt. There's been a lot of interruptions tonight on both sides. I acknowledge that, but I would love to hear every speaker tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to say that if the United States did nothing after it was attacked, Pearl Harbor, or 9/11, we didn't go get Osama bin Laden, would the world have been different? I think so. Israel has to get the job done. They have to return the hostages. Israel has the right to defend itself. I believe that none of these people believe that Israel has the right to exist. And that is the problem. It does have a right to exist. The Jewish people have a right to their own sovereign state. I consider you.
We have a few individuals that may be asked to leave, please.
Anyone else that deserves to speak, that's a lead. We got everybody's all about to say. You come with us.
Don't allow them to say right now, we got you.
All right, if this is not gonna happen again, and I'm assured that it's not, I've said this many times to me. I've said this many times to me. So if this does not happen, the next, I'm giving this final warning. If there is an interruption, again, we're gonna ask that the individuals interrupting, to please leave if you cannot allow the speakers to speak. I'm trying to be as respectful and more than respectful than
I agree,
maybe I should
Mr.
be right
President.
now. But I'm allowing it, so please allow every speaker to speak. This is the final warning. And we are gonna allow the gentleman, because he's been interrupted many times already, another 10 seconds and then 30 seconds on top of that. Let's go.
I ask the city council to please work with all the factions in our community, the Jewish community, everybody in wording some sort of a resolution if you want to. I think the one that you have brought in front of us is incredibly one-sided and it doesn't represent complexities and it doesn't acknowledge that Israel has a right to exist and has a right to defend itself. As a proud American, as a proud Rochesterian, I'm very happy that I was given the choice, a chance to speak in front of you tonight, and I thank you for your attention.
will be followed by Romana Cummings.
Good evening. I am here to speak to you tonight on the ceasefire resolution. You must sign this resolution. But I no longer wish to appeal to your empathy because that has worked many times. When we've talked about police budgets, we have to mobilize for the bid for you to oppose it. When it comes to our kids who live here, and now this ceasefire resolution, we have asked you so many times to stand against violence, specifically state violence. So we'll talk business instead. Your voter base is overwhelmingly asking you to call for a ceasefire to sign this resolution. Not everyone here tonight is part of your voter base, okay? So pay attention to who did speak to you because we have proof that we live here. And at this point, we are not going to stand by and let you watch as this genocide happens and say nothing. Your donation from the Locust Club, your donation from settler colonial organization will not save you. We will show up. We are voting. We're voting in the general election. Biden should be scared. And anyone who is quiet about this, if this does not pass unanimously, we're after your seats. Period. Yes. Food link. You've heard about food security, right? There are children starving. A lot of them. How can you stand by and watch this knowing families and children are starving? The same way that you all accepted, so many of you accepted money from corrupt organizations, and you voted against your constituents over and over again, our well-being. I think it's worth mentioning after the way that I was treated in the back, and very funny at security, so after people, heckling a little bit, my things were rummaged through. I was treated like garbage back there, but I'm not lineally Jewish by the way. My great-grandmother was the Holocaust survivor. You're kind of up. We are not free until every Palestinian is free. And we don't know what.
Romana Cummings will be followed by Lori Thomas.
From the South District. In life, there is always history and who gets to tell it. And there is context that is usually not explained or left out by the politicians, the mainstream media, those spokespeople for any current administration. Before 1947, the population of the land of Palestine was 95% Arab, with a small Jewish population. After that, approximately 750,000 Palestinians were expelled and dispossessed of their homes, land, and livelihoods. I don't have time to tell the rest of that history, but after Israel became a state, it became an occupier, and Palestinians have dealt with 56 years of brutal occupation. For the past 17 years, Gaza has been under a devastating and inescapable closed-off blockade. From 2008 to the end of 2022, 6,000 Palestinians have been killed, what the Israeli government and military call, in quotes, mowing the lawn. 300 Israelis were also killed during that time, half of them soldiers. What happened to Israelis on October 7th was a tragedy, a terror attack, war crimes carried out by Hamas and other militants, also referred to as terrorists, in quotes. Every day since then, the Israeli Air Force and Army has used their US-made bombs, missiles, drones, and snipers to slaughter, wound, and maim over 100,000, mostly children and women and men, destroy 70% of their homes, infrastructure, universities, and cultural institutions, a complete annihilation of Gaza as a society. And now, a man-made starvation is taking place. Do you think the Palestinian people might be feeling terror or have been terrorized and traumatized every day for over 150 days? And yet the Army and Air Force, Israeli, would never be referred to as terrorists. It's what the time is up. Israelis, excuse me,
Your time is up. I'm sorry.
Evening. On Wednesday, March 13th, 2024, a group of Rochester neighbors went to Albany to speak to our assemblyman about the problems we are experiencing in Rochester. We asked that our city council members go with us in support of the community that voted them into office. We also asked that our city council use taxpayer dollars to provide us with transportation and meals in support of our efforts. And until the day before the trip, we believed we had that support, only to be disappointed. Thankfully, we had a contingency plan and the trip took place as scheduled. We spoke with Assemblyman Brownson and Meeks and asked that the state reform a forensic audit of Monroe County, City of Rochester, and Rochester City School District budgets and programs. While we received no definitive support, we did leave our assemblyman with the understanding that we, Rochester's neighbors, are no longer waiting for our elected officials to oversee and hold themselves accountable, but that we, the Rochester community, will do so. We demand that our suggestions for the educational and emotional success of our children not only be considered, but carried out. Assemblyman Meeks noted that we are a small group, and to that I say, we are small, but mighty we are, cloaked in full armor of the Lord. However, the past is the past, and we hope you have learned your place in this government of the people and act accordingly. Forgiveness comes with the expectation of change. We expect you full support the next time we ask, as your boss, not the other way around. Because that is why we elected you to office. We are ready, willing, and able to take our responsibility seriously as the government of these United States to oversee and hold accountable those that misappropriate taxpayer dollars, and deny our children the excellent education needed to secure the successful future they deserve. My God is a God of love, and I have experienced nothing but hatred tonight. You will never achieve your purpose.
Alice Carley. Alice Carley here. Jennifer Sherilyn. To be followed by Michael Gill. My song, Cease Fire Now. Thought I could turn it up. I'm lost on the wall. You're proud. Were you when can I come there again? Michael Gill. Seth Weinstein. Seth Weinstein. Marilyn Newcomb. Marilyn Newcomb. Ephrat Patel. Okay. Ephrat Patel will be followed by Leora Roses.
I have a problem with Israel. We just moved from Israel to America a few years ago. So they saw the value of
Can we start over? Sorry, we couldn't hear you with the microphone. If we could start the time again.
Now you hear me?
Yes, we hear you now. Thank you.
I'm a proud Israeli who chose to move here from Israel a few years ago. Because I saw the value that Israel shares with the United States, and I've been proud to live here ever since. Both Israel and the US are countries made up of immigration from around the world. I grew up in Israel, surrounded by families from Morocco, Iran, Yemen, Poland, Russia, and dozens more nations. My son has a similar experience growing up in New York City. The US and Israel have been allied since Israel's earliest days, and today is no different. Israel is the most important American ally in the Middle East today, and the only democracy in the Middle East. After the oil attacks in 9/11, the world, and especially Israel, came together to root out and destroy Al-Qaeda for the brutal murders of thousands of American citizens here in American soil. These were challenging days, and I feel much the same way today as I did then. Now, in 2001, we need to come together to destroy a terror group bent on destruction and death. On October 7, Hamas did not fight in any sort of reasonable and justified way. They murdered families in their homes, raped women, including after they murdered those women, and took as hostages people from babies under a year old to senior citizens. Hamas is an organization that stands against all American and Israeli values and calls for both sides to cease fire before eliminating them goes against everything we all do. I urge you to oppose the resolution before you today.
Hi, thank you. As the granddaughter of 4 Holocaust survivors and the daughter of immigrants, it is clear that an American lens on a very complicated history in the Middle East that current war does not fit. Your proposed resolution claims to be inclusive of Israeli and Jewish communities, affirming a commitment to the safety, security, and inclusion of all people within our city. Is it really? This meddling in foreign affairs is divisive, dangerous, and is spreading propaganda to perpetuate this tragedy for lifetimes. There's no denying what Hamas terrorists have publicized they would do over and over and over again since October 7th. On October 8th, there were celebrations in the streets long before Israel even had the chance to respond and defend herself. Attacks on Israel and American democracy through city councils must be stopped is a piece that was published in the Orange County Register less than 1 week ago. The following excerpts and quotes are highly relevant. Rochester City Council is not unique. You're being played. Since October 7th, city council chambers across the country have been besieged by ceasefire protesters. The protesters hijacked city council chambers who have no authority over international relations to demand a ceasefire resolution. Playbooks published online guide protesters through the steps of how to effectively introduce ceasefire resolutions with locally aligned politicians and how to effectively grind the functioning of local government to a halt. City councils are easy pressure points for the activists. Local politicians are not subject matter experts on the conflict, have no access to classified briefings, and are easily manipulated by distorted facts presented by hundreds of shouting protesters in their chambers. Clearly, the war between 2 foreign powers is not within proper purview of any American city. City councils are being used as pawns for organizations who intend to spread anti-Jewish and anti-Israel propaganda. The intent is to introduce ceasefire resolutions into local government bodies. Your time is up.
Is Jason Adams here?
Yes.
Okay. To be followed by Scott Wilson.
Good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever it is, right? People are actually thinking, oh,
Forward a little, just frustrated.
give us a couple minutes. Can everybody hear me now?
Yeah.
Right.
Can we give, gentlemen a few more, yeah, can we give the gentleman time back, just give it a microphone?
Now, as I was saying, I was here at the talk, this is the homelessness here in Rochester, and rent stabilization. And all this other stuff, and I walked in the middle of a home. You people off their shoes. How I have seen, and there's this Jewish Palestinian bull crap. Is you don't know the real history.
Yes.
Some of you know it on the left, some of you know it on the right, but if you take the time, the Harry Truman papers just came out this month. Palestine was a nation. Until 1947. And right after that, there was a British something that went down with it. And the worst part about it, it was a video done by him. He designed it. They were gonna take over Palestine piece by piece by piece, and he said it in his words. How can I move 5 million people without anybody noticing it? Now, as for my Jewish friends who really know the real thing that's going on over there, instead of arguing about this thing, we need to come together and do the proper thing about it. Instead of arguing, I want this, I want this. The Palestinians want the Jews in the Red Sea, and the Jews want them in the other sea. And you just gonna know your cousins, your kinfolk. It's fair enough, y'all got black folks in America fighting each other, in the United States, they're gonna fight each other too. When you gonna wake up and see what the heck is going on? They're scared of you, they're scared of me. Until you wake up and see what's going on, you will hit this house in all.
Scott Wilson. Is Scott Wilson here? Rora Patel. Woo. Can you work my neck?
Under ordinary circumstances, I would not expect the Rochester City Council to have a foreign policy. However, given the extraordinary disconnect between the will of the people and the actions of our federal officials, I believe it's necessary for you as representatives of those who live in the city to convey to those officials the depth and urgency of concern regarding this issue. I'm speaking to you not only as a resident of Rochester, but as a leader of the Jewish community who speaks to the growing majority of American Jews supporting this ceasefire. I realize that you may be hearing from local Jewish institutional leaders opposing the resolution supporting the ceasefire. While they may claim to speak for the Jewish community, Jews have no centralized authority or bodies that actually empowered to do so. Sadly, the self-appointed leadership is increasingly disconnected from the views of the majority of American Jews who are critical of the action of the government. I know that a related concern is that supporting the ceasefire is anti-Semitic. There are certainly those who conflate any criticism of the Israeli government with anti-Semitism. However, most American Jews understand that any government, including our own, is a valid subject of criticism. I'm also speaking as a member of Rabbis for Ceasefire, a global movement of Jewish spiritual leaders who believe our deepest Jewish values concerning the sanctity of human life, the inheritedness of peace, and the call to justice
are at stake in the continued destruction of godliness. At this moment of great moral reckoning, we're speaking out to fulfill the most sacred obligation in Jewish tradition, pikuach nefesh, saving a life. The call for ceasefire is a call for life, for Israelis and Palestinians, and one I hope all of you will share. I also want to ask, please don't cheer or clap. This is not a football game. We're not rooting for sides. These are deep, these are profound, loving human lives, and I hope that we can treat that project with that.
Joseph Bradley.
I just want to come to all that this is very much the guidance for all the Jews who are speaking out against this growth. She should put her phone.
After asking security to have somebody stop recording her.
No, she did not have to write to
Ladies and gentlemen, we will have security have a conversation, but we're not able to stop someone from recording our meeting in council chambers.
Okay, are you Joseph Bradley?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Joseph Bradley will be followed by Ama Chico.
Good evening, I'm here to talk about the reassessment issue, and I'm gonna read from the New York State. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm gonna read from the New York State Penal Law. I want you to consider Article 20 and Section 195 when you make your decision on what to do about the reassessment. Article 20, criminal liability for conduct of another. When one person engages in conduct which constitutes an offense, another person is criminally liable for such conduct when acting with the mental capability required for the commission thereof. He solicits, requests, commands, importunes, or intentionally aids such person to engage in such conduct. Section 195, official misconduct. A public servant is guilty of official misconduct when, with the intent to obtain a benefit or deprive another person of a benefit, he commits an act relating to his office or constituting an unauthorized exercise of his official functions, knowing that such act is unauthorized, or he knowingly refrains from performing a duty which is imposed upon him by law or is clearly inherent in the nature of his office. Now, we're all not ignorant. We know how our government institutions work across this country. There are backroom deals made and promises made. I want you all to consider Article 20 and Section 195, when you decide on this decision about reassessment. Because if you're sitting in front of a prosecutor, that is the wrong time thinking about Article 20 and Section 195. Thank you very much.
Is there Ama Shiloh here? About Leo Goldman? Leo Goldman. Leo Goldman will be followed by Ram Haddad.
Good evening. As a woman and a mother, I stand before you today with an aching heart, deeply troubled by the plight of the innocent people whose lives have been cut short and forever shattered because of hate. Hate for peace, hate for democracy, hate for the other, and hatred of life itself. I'm here to serve as a voice of innocent human beings who were brutally murdered and savagely kidnapped on October 7th, some of whom are still captive. Many of these young women, many of them raped by Hamas terrorists, some who are believed to be pregnant as a result. The suffering and horrors these human beings have endured and continue to endure on a daily basis are incomprehensible. It is sickening to me that the memorializing resolution proposed by Sally Martin and supported by people who claim to be champions of human rights is silent on the brutal sexual violence used by Hamas to terrorize the hostages and their families at home. It is absolutely inappropriate for the City Council of Rochester, New York, to opine on events transpiring in foreign countries that they have no expertise in. This resolution, to me, is simply a performative gesture to further an agenda of hate against one specific community. However, if any type of resolution is to be approved, it would be grossly negligent for this body, elected to represent the entire city, to boil down a deeply complex situation into a bite-sized 5-paragraph that excludes many of its constituent beliefs. Any resolution passed must be one that unequivocally condemns the sexual violence and rape committed by Hamas terrorists and demand the safe return of all of the hostages.
Followed by Mercer Carter.
Thank you. Can you hear me? 1, 2. Louder. Can you hear me now?
Louder.
1, 2. Hear me now?
Speak directly to the mic and use your outside voice, sir.
2 cousins of my wife went to a music festival during the ceasefire period. Both of them got shot in their legs and held hostages for over 50 days. Unfortunately, one of them has been in a wheelchair since she got operated at hospital bed. I'm against war and hope for a ceasefire in a peaceful way. But we cannot forget that one side of the equation is official terrorism as defined by the US government. There will not be a ceasefire until the hostages will be released. You can scream and protest all day long, but rape is not resistance. Rape is not resistance. You can call for ceasefires all day long, but then you cannot break into a music festival during the ceasefires with automatic guns, killing and raping innocent people. You cannot call ceasefires and then brutally attack someone and break his skull in very color bright. You cannot call for ceasefires and then show dead body parts outside our kids' schools. You cannot call for ceasefires and then burn the flag of the USA here outside the Assembly Hall. We want a ceasefire, but it will not be a ceasefire until Hamas release all the hostages. God bless America. Thank you.
Mercury Carly. Okay. Will be followed by Theo Fromula.
Hi, my name is Mercury Carly. I was born and raised in Rochester, and I'm here to show my
Sam, can
support.
you pull the mic down just a little bit? Sorry. Pause it. A little bit closer to you. There you go. Thank you.
My name is Mercury Carly. I was born and raised in Rochester, and I'm here to show my support for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza and U.S. military support for Israel. Additionally, I urge City Council to call for the renewal of U.S. aid to the UNRWA, an organization providing life-saving food aid that has been smeared as a terrorist group based on unsubstantiated claims of hate and torture. Some people have asked why so many of us feel so strongly about something occurring on the other side of the planet. I'm here not only because my tax dollars are funding this atrocity, not only because my elected officials have repeatedly called into question the Palestinian death toll, but because I have almost lost loved ones to eating disorders, and I have seen the misery that prolonged hunger brings. I cannot comprehend the magnitude of the suffering that the people of Gaza have faced throughout these months, but I also can't stop thinking about it, and I cannot sit and hang tonight and say nothing. Regardless of the complexity of the situation, continued inaction will cost lives, as it has cost lives. Ceasefire now and permanent.
Theo Fromula, and followed by Samantha Diva.
Tonight I've heard people speak about life, about death. That's why we're all here. Yes. And about the suffering that it causes. As human beings, we have a need to be free from suffering. All of us. People have quoted statistics to you. People have quoted personal stories to you. I could stand here and read you a list of names of the dead. What would that do? What would it do? Getting our needs met by supporting, condoning, ignoring, or denying violence,
loss of life, genocide. These are ineffective and costly ways to get our needs met. The needs that we have to be free from suffering. That is what everyone is talking about. It is costing us too much. It is costing some of us our humanity. Please, there is no danger. There is only the fulfillment of our needs to be free from suffering if we support a ceasefire permanently. There is no other choice. Ceasefire when? Now. Thank you.
Samantha Dingo will be followed by Sharon Shafrir.
Hello, my name is Samantha Dingo, and I'm here to call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza. As of today, Gaza's Ministry of Health has reported over 104,000 people as injured or killed in Israel's ongoing genocide of Palestine. Rochester's population is a little over 210,000. I cannot imagine what it would be like for half of our city to be dead, injured, or dying right now. All people deserve a safe place to live, from New York to Gaza. We, in addition to a permanent ceasefire, we need to pass immediate rent stabilization, and we must complete the valid agency step. Housing is a human right.
Will be followed by Rachel Present.
Ramadan Kareem. Since its inception in 1984, Hamas designated its mission to destroy Israel and every Jewish person worldwide. Nothing in its charter mentions reconstruction and advancing the Palestinian people. Since it seized power in the Gaza Strip in 2007, it used and still uses violence to fight and oppress its opposition from within with brutal tactics. The same tactics Hamas terrorists used on October 7th victims mercilessly and heartlessly. You talk about injustice? Hamas denies basic civil rights to its own people, especially women, the LGBTQ community, and non-Muslims. It diverts any humanitarian aid meant for Palestinian civilians to its own need, profiting on the backs of the Palestinian people in Gaza. Hamas uses international financial aid to build rocket launch pads on rooftops of public buildings such as schools, hospitals, residential dwellings, putting its own people at grave danger by launching into Israel. This resolution should condemn Hamas for what it really is, a terrorist organization that fought a war on its own people, causing so much pain, suffering, and death. The resolution should acknowledge the harm caused by Hamas to the Palestinian people, not remove Hamas. The resolution should acknowledge the suffering of the Israelis who experienced a blood bath in their homes, rape, and brutal torture. In addition to years of being constantly bombed by Hamas missiles. This council should vote on a resolution that calls for the immediate release of the 134 Israeli hostages and the Palestinian people from the claws of Hamas. Bring them home!
Rachel Present will be followed by Kenneth Pryor.
Rochester is the only city of comparable size in this nation where more than half the children live in poverty. We have the highest rate of extreme poverty in the United States. I spent years working for Tom Ferraro at Foodlink and Louise Slaughter in Washington. Rochester runs in my blood, the fourth generation of proud Rochesterians. I am ashamed of what is happening in this city in 2024. Why aren't you? I have spent the last 14 years living in Israel, and I promise you I am more opposed to Israel's current government than you are. For nearly a year leading up to October 7th, I protested the government of Israel almost every week, including through a high-risk pregnancy. 3 days before giving birth and less than 2 weeks after, I was out at protest. Israel's government should be ashamed. I do not stand here because I support Bibi Netanyahu. I stand here because the terror of what is happening to Kfir Bibas, the baby kidnapped by Hamas at 7 months old, and what Hamas is doing to the children of Gaza should be of no relevance to this group, while the children of Rochester shiver and starve. And most fundamentally, I stand here because I too care deeply about the people of Gaza. The people of Gaza deserve so much better than the terror of Hamas, who forced Dalia Ziada, an outspoken Palestinian critic of Hamas, to flee her home in Egypt after her life was threatened. If you sign on to this resolution, you will stand against the people of Israel and against the Palestinian people of Gaza. You will stand against Israel, a liberal democracy where 20% of the population is Arab Israeli, and where polls show 70% of the Arab Israeli population stands with Israel. Do you know better than Israel's Arab citizens what would be best for the Palestinians?
Ladies and gentlemen, just for a moment, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Man, for a moment, I really don't want to do another recess. Let me just say this, I really do not want to do another recess, so please, let us continue to go through the list, and it'll be my preference if we can keep going, speaker after speaker, to allow everyone that's in the room to be heard tonight. So please, let's continue in that vein. I would like to hear everyone tonight, and let's not, if we can avoid chanting and cheering after each speaker, that will help us ensure that council members can hear everyone's voice. Deputy Clerk.
Kenneth Pryor. Kenneth Pryor here. Yitzi Hines. Yitzi Hines. Yolanda Dinkins. Yolanda Dinkins will be followed by Riley Shalacy.
Good evening, I'm here to talk about the reassessment. I went to a reassessment meeting and
I'm gonna pause. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to be able to hear the speaker, so if we can, eliminate chatter right now, and then bring the mic closer, man, please. And we'll start the time over, Joe. You may proceed, man.
okay, I went to my reassessment meeting. I made the appointment, went to my reassessment meeting, took off to work. I had a guy come through, explain everything to me. He compared the house to, down the street from mine. He said, we'll base this off of yours, plus this is fully remodeled, and we'll take off deductions for remodeling for it. He said, you'll receive a letter the first week of March. I received the letter, the first week of March. There was no changes on there. They marked my assessment up over 200%, which I think was fair, because I live in a neighborhood where I have to listen to a factory, which I complained about, that makes noise. I got buzzing sounds that come through my house 24 hours. We got people who play loud music all day, 18-wheeler trucks that ride over our curbs that we haven't had curbs in years around here. Yeah. So I just say, I would like to pause, like my daughter, she pays.
Pause.
Yeah, a pause, she pays, over $1,000 for rent. So her rent go up when the assessments go up. Elderly people, like people are leaving New York State at a high rate amount because of the high taxes in New York State.
So I would just ask for a pause to just work something out. I can see it going up a little bit, but just raising it dramatically like that, it's ridiculous. Thank you.
Riley Blakey will be followed by Amanda Chestnut.
I'm gonna finish the people who are in favor of the most report. Famous Riley Schlesy, artist and renter in the NP board. I'm here to speak about primarily the business improvement district. When I look closely, when I do my research, when I do my cyber stalking, and I keep my little spreadsheet of everybody and what they're connected to and who pays them, well, it starts to look less and less like a who owns what and who's affiliated with what. And it starts to look more like a who owns who, with a lot of conflicts of interest at play. I am also continuing to show my support for a new vacancy study. And on my topic of conflicts of interest, I'd like to voice my concern that one of the agencies that conducted the original vacancy study in 2019 was the Highland Planning Committee, the same group that is conducting the research for the business improvement district. And I can tell you from firsthand working with them and doing their surveys, they twist things. They will twist your word to be in favor of their bid. So I am right now urging the city of Rochester to create a new nonpartisan committee to conduct this more fair vacancy study that's been proposed. I'd also like to mention while I'm up here, I'm a cyclist in Rochester, and this city hall has absolutely no bike rack. We've got people locked to a stop sign, and I'm locked to something across the street. Can we at least get a bike rack at this place?
Amanda Chestnut, followed by Jennifer Bannister. I'm just gonna follow Riley and keep the microphone turned around. Good evening, Rochester. I'm gonna put my professor hat on. I would like to talk to you today for a moment about intersectionality. And it's a topic that's come up many, many times over the course of this evening, but hasn't been addressed directly. So who I would like you to encourage you to look up. Go ahead, pull out your cell phone. I know you've got it, and everybody's pockets got checked on the way in. Fannie Lou Hamer. Do you know who Fannie Lou Hamer is? Yeah. There's some people in the room who don't. There's a couple people who look confused. You need to know who Fannie Lou Hamer is. Go ahead and look her up. She was instrumental in the development of SNCC. She was also instrumental in the Summer of Freedom riots, which have already come up once during a conversation tonight. Because intersectionality means, as Fannie Lou Hamer has said, nobody is free until everyone is free. That means that the homeowners in Rochester are not free until we are all free. That means that the small businesses in the inner loop that are trying to be taken over by the business improvement district, none of those people are free until we are all free. That means that Palestinians are not free until we are all free. We must work together, not just for our own individual freedom, but for the freedom of us all.
Jennifer Bannister, be followed by John Capullo.
Good evening, First of all, I just want to appreciate folks who worked on the ceasefire resolution. I also want to say no bidding and to protect the renters in both ways. We come here a lot, and at this point, this is about the ceasefire, and we work together, all of us, on trying to fight violence and the cycles of retaliation in our city amongst young people. And so many of the things that we have identified as root causes, systemic injustices, displacement through urban renewal, redlining, through tracking people in neighborhoods with substandard housing, unaddressed trauma, and just over and over, the way that we know that the root causes just keep creating more and more retaliation. That's what we've seen in Israel and Palestine. And so I'll just read a little bit of my speech and for listening. I've just watched really closely as public officials at the state and federal levels have ignored all logic about war crimes. They have ignored, like, there are people who have like advocated forever for gun safety, common sense gun safety laws, mental health, housing, and watching and like understanding that the historical wrongs to indigenous people and the displacement. And then they're accepting APAC funds, and they are fueling occupation and bombing, allowing the bombs to fall. We can take a different path, and you as local officials actually have a lot to say. It really matters what comes out of the municipalities. We've already heard that in 1985, we actually signed on against the apartheid regime in South Africa. And in the end, we can do that again. It will demonstrate to young people that we can use our words instead of bombing young.
John Bueller. Nanette Hiller. Nanette Hiller will be followed by Robert Rudolph.
Hello, dear city council members. I live in myself, but I am a person of faith, and my Unitarian Universalist faith moves me to be here tonight in body and voice to urge you to pass MR 1024, calling for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. I have read it and found the language sound and inclusive of our community and consistent with our values and commitments to equity and anti-racism. The International Court of Justice has already issued 6 provisional measures ordering Israel to prevent and punish incitement of genocide and to ensure humanitarian aid and services reach Palestinians in Gaza. We are also currently witnessing a dangerous assault on the meaning of words themselves, as narratives are being wrangled and voices suppressed by a global rise in fascism. The fact that the slaughter and forced starvation of thousands of children in Gaza is being framed and supported by our tax dollars as anything resembling self-defense is chilling. We have got to stand by the meaning of the words we use to express our values by the actions that we take. So I urge you to keep words like humanity, compassion, equity, and sanctuary close to your hearts and pass this resolution for a ceasefire now in Gaza. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Free Palestine.
Robert Rudolph will be followed by Anthony Moore.
You agree? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can all of you hear me? This microphone is so good, let me tell you. Last time I was here, I compared a lot of you to the mayor in Jaws. And that wasn't fair. It wasn't fair to the mayor in Jaws. Because at least he eventually realized that he was putting people in danger. Now, how many of you might be getting a little bit of help or money if this bid comes through? How many of you are gonna be doing well with this? Can we see your records? Do you show that? How many of you are actually, really gonna change or do anything about the assessments? Or asking, hey, how many buildings in this city are actually empty? How much are we going to have to pay for the people who own downtown buildings, who got those buildings at a fraction of the cost, and then got massive tax cuts? And then they want you to have a big setup, so we have to pay for their repairs and everything they need to do in their buildings. And how many kids in this city are not getting a proper education? And you guys wonder why we think you're not doing your job. Some of you just get up and go in the middle of meetings. I don't know if it's you got small old man bladder or old lady bladder. I don't care. I've been sitting here for an hour already. And I've been listening to a lot of stuff. People yelling at each other, screaming at each other like you're in the middle of a soccer match or something. And we're talking about serious things. I've not heard anybody say that what Hamas did was good. I've not heard anybody say what Israel's doing is great either. So cool it.
Ethelene Lawrence? Is Ethelene Lawrence here? Ryan Acuff? Ryan Acuff? Liam Et, Ryan, oh, sorry. Ryan Acuff will be followed by Liam Enright.
Good evening, members of council. I'm here tonight to speak in favor of a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, to pause and reform the resettlement process, to act to stabilize rents in Rochester, and of course, no to the big bad bid. I think it's absolutely proper for this council to be consistent, principled, in support of peace, human rights, and liberation from Rafah to Rochester. This is absolutely a time for us all to stand up and stand together. I understand that sometimes going with the status quo is easier, more comfortable, but this is the time for us all to work together, be courageous. As far as the rents, I think the question would be how bad would it have to get? So one of the things I just sent around was a recent article in the New York Times this week that showed that Rochester had the dubious ranking of 8 of all cities in the United States in rent increases. Record spiraling rent increases. Now, based on individual conversations with council, it's clear that there is a vast majority of support of doing the vacancy study to move in the right direction. So what we need is decisive action. What we want is on March 26th, at least 5 council members to get together, co-introduce legislation in favor of authorizing the funds for the vacancy study, directing the administration to do an RFP, and making sure the vacancy study is done by the end of the summer. We need decisive action. It's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. This is within your power, and I'm asking you to be courageous. Thank you.
Liam Enright will be followed by Crescendo Fion.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to demand that City Council pass resolution 001024, calling on our government to act immediately to secure a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. It is completely intolerable that billions of our tax dollars are being used to facilitate the slaughter and starvation of the people of Gaza. Many of us in this room have expressed as much to our president and our congressional representatives repeatedly over the past 5 months as we have witnessed the death toll rise to over 30,000 people. Yet Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, Kirsten Gillibrand, and Joe Morelli continue to refuse to listen to our demand for a ceasefire. Thus, we must continue with one voice as a city, as a community, to make this demand as loudly and clearly as possible. Frederick Douglass said, "Power concedes nothing without the demand." Here in Rochester, our community has adopted Frederick Douglass as something of a symbol of ourselves and of our values. We see his image immortalized in bronze on Exchange Boulevard and on South Avenue. We've named our airport in his honor. To fail to adopt this resolution, to fail to call for an end to U.S. support for the system of racialized violence and segregation faced by the Palestinian people, would be to betray the values of Frederick Douglass, of our espoused values of the city, and most harmful of all, it would be to betray our own Palestinian community members, whom this council must recognize as equally deserving of the right to life and liberty as any other people. The members of the council must beg for ceasefire resolution or forfeit their ability to ever again look upon Frederick Douglass's image or meet the gaze of their Palestinian constituents without being overcome with shame. I'd also like to voice my opposition to the bid and my support for pause in the vacancy assessment. Ceasefire now. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Crescendo Scipione. I'm here with Metro Justice and the Rochester Committee to End Apartheid. Metro Justice has been part of this community since 1965 and has long stood for peace and justice around the world, as well as here in Rochester. We've stood against U.S. imperialism in Latin America, the apartheid regime in South Africa, and U.S. wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. We stand always against both Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. Today, we stand with our many brothers, sisters, and friends of good conscience to oppose Netanyahu's genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. Since October 7th, Israel's bombs have killed more than 30,000 Palestinian civilians, including at least 13,642 children. That's more than half the number of students in our city schools. Children aren't terrorists, and bombing them cannot be called self-defense. It can only be called mass murder. 1.4 million people have been forced to flee to the small city of Rafah, less than 25 square miles. For reference, that's roughly proportionate to cramming the entire population of Rochester inside the inner loop and then bombing it. The United Nations International Court of Justice has unanimously confirmed what was already plain for us to see, that Netanyahu is committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. Israeli politicians are already planning how to settle Gaza once its ethnic cleansing is complete. And in defiance of international law, human decency, and the very idea of God, the United States, under genocide Joe Biden, has done absolutely nothing to stop the atrocities. Let's be clear, more than 25,000 tons of bombs dropped on Gaza are US-made bombs launched from US-made planes, US-made drones, and US-made artillery emplacements funded by US tax dollars. So unless any of you are tax evaders, the blood of thousands of innocent children is on your hands too. It's all of our problem. The United States must stop all of the more than $3 billion in military, diplomatic, and economic aid to Israel to stop this genocide. Also, we're the third poorest city in the country. Do rent control. It's common sense.
Is Paul just in here? No? Are you retired?
We'll start over and bring the mic a little bit closer, please.
My name is Yitzhak. I'm 16 years old and getting into college. Never thought I would work at college and consider whether a Jewish student would feel safe on campus. Resolutions like this will terrify me and my friends. We're also Jews. Because of this, it feels like Rochester doesn't want us here. In my opinion, this council wants that in the future, rather than focusing on conflict across the world, just focus on what's happening here in Rochester. We could use this power we have to bring different groups of teenagers that myself have dialogue and a better future for all of us. We are tomorrow leaders. You're giving us a bad example of what it is to be. Instead of you bringing people together, you are tearing this community apart. You are making Jewish students feel unsafe, We're sending a message to Hamas. It is okay to target Jewish kids like me. Hamas is a terrorist organization. While many people think that supporting such a resolution to vote for peace is in fact the opposite. Rochester should be a community where everyone feels safe and free to be who they are, the religion they are. But tonight we're doing just the opposite of that. So I urge you not to sign this resolution, but instead work for a brighter future for all of us.
Thank you.
Liza Tubman. Liza Tubman here. Ronnie, Cat, Ryan. And you're posing picture again? Yeah, she posing picture, girl. I heard nothing, I just hear these. No, she posing.
Excuse me, can we maintain order in the room and please be respectful of everyone here, please?
Yeah, I can never come back here.
Excuse me, before we move forward. It is my, let me reiterate something, please, to everyone in the room. It is my hope that we do not recess again and that we do not end the meeting. I would like to hear from everyone in the room. So please be respectful of everyone in the room. Gentlemen, your time.
Thank you. Good evening. First, I want to start by thanking all the workers, staff, and security that are here so late, making all this happen. So thank you. For the last 20 years, I've been involved in economic development in the city of Rochester, helping people find jobs. Never been involved in local politics, but tonight I do not say otherwise. I'm here to speak against the ceasefire resolution. We have all heard the saying, no justice, no peace. But this resolution is calling for peace before justice has been served. No justice, no peace. But this resolution de facto supports Hamas, a terrorist organization that, just as the United Nations declared, there is irrefutable evidence they murdered and raped women and children. But we are calling to reward them with this resolution. We say no justice, no peace. But just today, the U.S. National Security Advisor, on behalf of the Biden administration, said, you can see it on the press releases of the White House, we could have a ceasefire right now if Hamas agrees to release women and elderly. But Hamas rejects that. Hamas rejected that. Not my words, not Israel's words. It's the U.S. government's word. Think about it. Hamas prefers to continue torturing women and children, Israeli and American citizens, instead of getting a ceasefire. And we want to reward them for that. My friend Shadi Abu Faris is a colonel in the IDF. He's currently in Gaza fighting Hamas. He's a proud Israeli Muslim, one of many Israeli Muslims who fight Hamas. Because Hamas killed Christians, Jews, Druze, Muslims. They killed the people of all races, of all colors. This resolution is calling to support them and to reward them. No justice, no peace. We should not support terrorists. So please, don't make Rochester a place where terrorism is welcome and is rewarded.
Followed by Cheryl Bond.
Hi, I'm here to talk about our guardians, their guardians, it's our child, the youth that are going on the streets, violence and non-violence, even education. City school district is accountable for returning those kids to school, not to allow them to be around in the Rochester area doing crimes while they're supposed to be in school. So I'm here just for you as a guidance, and you're guiding all the Rochester here to let you know that enough is enough. Our youth are killing each other, okay? And we have to stop that. We have to learn to be equal and take those kids out of the streets and get them to jobs, go education, or job training if they have to go. But don't let them destroy our Rochester and destroy their lives. So they're killing each other with drugs and with guns. That's all I'm talking about.
She'll be followed by Odette Bindle.
Good evening, everyone. I had a bunch of stuff, but I am really wiped out past my bedtime. And Maria is one of the new neighbors on my mother's street, and I wanted to be supportive of her in her quest to follow up on things that are her concerns in the neighborhood. So 15 minutes before I was to pick her up, I got an urgent call from my sister that my mother fell, my 89-year-old mother fell. And it looked like she had broken both of her wrists. So the ambulance got there. I told Maria to give me 15 minutes because I need to figure out what I was going to do because I let her down yesterday. I felt really bad. So I didn't want to repeat that in that rush with the relationship. So I have 7 other siblings, so I figured they could pick up the slack until I got done with this. I didn't know this was going to take as long as it did. So she's still at the hospital. All I want to do now is say, pause the reassessment. Yes. You're not doing enough for voices of Verona. They really deserve more help. They're representing the entire community. And I just want to say, pray for Rochester because we need it. If there was no other proof that I needed, it was tonight being here for this length of time and hearing all the back and forth. I know we can do better. Just pray for Rochester. Thank you.
Bindle will be followed by Calio Rodriguez.
Really? Obviously, I came to speak about a topic that's close to my heart, but it's really a shame that you're dealing with the Israel-Hamas situation. You don't have jurisdiction to discuss. I can tell you about the atrocities of Hamas in Israel. Tell you about the fact that Hamas is a terrorist organization is defined by the US government. Tell you many things about Hamas and Israel. It's not going to help. You shouldn't even discuss this topic because it's not your jurisdiction. There is international diplomacy, there is local diplomacy. And you should be focusing on early childcare education. You should care for poverty in your jurisdiction. You should care for your people, the tax. Why are you increasing taxes on your people? Why are you doing that? All one people. Israel is defending itself. Nobody wants to see this terrible development. What Hamas did on October 7th, the atrocities that this world should never have seen. You should stick to your jurisdiction, which is governing your constituency, your voter base. This is your problem, not over the sea. Yeah.
If we can get some order in the room, please.
We will pause for a moment to allow security to have a conversation.
Allegra disease, the DEID.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm definitely not intelligent, as a lot of people who have spoken tonight, so I'm gonna keep it quick. I am just here to stand with the people of Rochester who I so dearly love and have seen in the streets, fighting for each other and fighting for justice. And what that looks like to me is a ceasefire, rent control, a pause on the reassessment. No leaders.
You know what?
I prefer a few things to say, but I'll speak from my heart after I heard what people were saying here. So I heard a lot of people speaking here, and a lot of the things that I am assuming the information is coming from social media and from information that is not verified. I grew up in Israel. I served in the Israeli military. I was wounded in the Israeli military by a kid throwing a rock at my face. I am here to say, Israel, there is a lot of information that people do not understand. Israel left Gaza 20 years ago. There is no presence of Israel in Gaza for 20 years. People who call Israel an apartheid do not understand. They actually minimize the suffer of those who went through apartheid. People who suffer for apartheid, they had segregation. If you go in Israel, there are Arabs in every field in Israel. There are Ahmed Tibi, he's in the government, he's in the Israeli parliament. There are doctors in Israeli hospitals. There are dentists, musicians. You can find them in any field. Any museum you go, there are signs in Hebrew, in Arabic, in English. So every person who calls here Israel an apartheid, apparently never visited Israel, does not know. And a lot of the information, I feel for the kids, in Palestine, and I think that if anybody here cares for the kids in Palestine, we should release Gaza from Hamas. No, and a reasonable people rather Hamas.
Let's go for a moment, ladies and gentlemen, it is 10 o'clock. It's early to start. It's early to start. We want to hear from everyone, we'll be here to hear from everyone, but I really need everyone to allow everyone their 2 minutes of time. So please, we have a process, and everyone is allowed to speak, regardless of residency, so please allow everyone to speak. Thank you.
Liz McGriff.
Where are we at now? Huh?
If you can, pull the mic a little bit closer, Liz. A little bit closer, please. There we go.
My name is Liz, and I'm from the Citywide Tenant Union. I support ceasing, the fires, ceasing killing people in buildings. I also support the vacancy study, and I also support, ceasing the bill to the tax assessment as well. One of the things we really need is a vacancy study for folks in our community. There's a way to do it, and the phases is of the city council issuing or authorizing the city of Rochester to do a vacancy study. And so the vacancy study would be different from the original one that was done in 2020.
It would have stricter guidelines if you want to use those guidelines. The second phase is city council to hold a public hearing. And declare a housing state of emergency and put forth a resolution. So the city of Rochester can opt in to rent people. The third phase is, the Rochester City Council can get nominees from the community members, to create a rent guidelines board. And with the rent guidelines board, it's made up of community members as well as landlords and tenants. And the fourth phase is, once the guideline board is set up, they do a community assessment of, a meeting with the community to kind of, a meeting with the community. And then the city opts in. Thank you.
Kevin Lockhart. And he'll be followed by Barbara McMinn.
It was very rude for a member of the PAB to interrupt the nice lady who was speaking. And he was going to be removed for heckling, but the deputy chief intervened and let him sit in here. So I'm going to make a statement here, but I guess this is the type of behavior we can expect from the lunatic fringe. All right. I want to acknowledge everyone who's here tonight. And thank you all for coming out here to speak out. I want to mention, first of all, that Danville resident Ryan Corbett has been held hostage by the Taliban in Kabul. Furthermore, of course, I would like to call for a ceasefire here in Rochester because kids are stealing cars and driving around, hanging machine guns out the window and killing each other. Our crime is through the roof because our city government isn't doing their job by establishing elected committees for areas like the 19th Ward, Maplewood, Wild Lotus, and Upper Falls. That money is just going missing in transit. It's clear that there's a collective desire for peace and justice to prevail among all of us here. And I believe that the tides are indeed turning, and it's up to all of us to steer the course toward a better future. We need to take power from people by establishing an equal number of elected committees in the city, as there are in the suburbs of Monroe County. Establishing elected school and town level election committees in Rochester is a critical first step toward establishing a democracy. By establishing elected committees for each neighborhood in Rochester, communities will be able to receive and allocate public funds autonomously. There are hundreds of elected committees in Monroe County whose job is to distribute funding to infrastructure, and only about 18 trustees elected in Rochester compared to the several hundred seats elected across the county. The structure of the election districts means that Rochester has only 1/5 of the vote. Residents of Rochester only have 1/5 of the vote compared to Monroe County residents. The vote is totally diluted. And by the way, profoundly racist.
What time is that? Barbara.
Barbara McMinn, followed by Kevin McMinn.
My name is Barbara McMinn. I'm a retired caseworker for the Monroe County with experience in both child protective and adult protective. This reassessment will hurt children, families, and seniors. The ratio of homeowners to renters in the city of Rochester is 37%, which is very low. We have already seen that the rents in Rochester are too high, and it is a huge problem. We should be encouraging homeowners there. This reassessment will result in more homelessness. There are already too many children attending the Rochester City School District that are homeless. How can children expect to be successful and to graduate if they are homeless? Seniors on fixed income to be forced to sell their homes if they cannot afford their taxes. If these seniors are forced to sell their homes, where are they going to go? It is naive to think that higher assessment will not result in higher taxes.
If not now, it will be in the future. We have tried to help people to challenge these assessments. And as we had the informal meetings, the informal meetings were already filled up. And we now have to go to the more formal process, which is very much more cumbersome and a lot more paperwork. I am asking you to pause this, to do a pause for 2 years, to give us time to assess, study this reassessment and the ramifications to the community. Please support the pause, stand up for the people that voted you in, and please do not be influenced by anyone, even the mayor of Rochester. Please stand up for the people and do the right thing.
And be followed by Elizabeth Meyer.
First of all, I'd like to thank the four council members that stood up for the people. And be accountable. We really appreciate that. The other ones that don't want to stand up for the people, you'll be counted in November. Okay, just remember that. Our votes matter. Why higher reassessments? City is telling you your taxes are going to go up, some of them. But why do you reassess them? Twice as much, 3 times as much, 4 times as much? There's a reason for it. It might not raise up right away, but it's going to raise up and it's going to be drastic. And what's going to be the problem with that is now you're going to have homelessness. Poor people that are struggling just to make a living, especially retirees that work hard their whole life with their house, is now going to on the edge because they're deciding, do I pay my medicine? Do I pay my mortgage? What do I pay? Do they sell their house? That isn't feasible. We've already got a problem with the houses in the city now, with not having enough ownership, and now you're gonna have less by reassessing. That's just not acceptable. It's just not acceptable. And this country was built by poor people. Our ancestors come over here, whether they were forced over here or they come over on their own accord. They were forced to build this country what it is today, and I hate to see it destroyed by high taxes. There's no reason for it, none whatsoever. It's just a shame. It's a shame. Shame on the city of Rochester for doing this. The only solution is pause, get control of it, see why they can come up with it. This one here is going to pay 5 times as much for a reassessment. This one here might stay the same. That's not acceptable. Thank you.
Elizabeth Myers will be followed by Karen D'Amico.
Good evening. Thank you for listening to all of us all this time. My name is Elizabeth Myers. I live not in the city, I live in the village of Scottsville. However, I'm a retired Rochester school district teacher, and my church is here in Rochester, and I'll get to a relationship with my church in a minute. People will never stop wanting to be free. Defeating Hamas would not end the Palestinians' legitimate desire to have their land, their homes, have water, have food, have a way to communicate. Thus, I urge you to vote for this ceasefire resolution, which has been carefully developed by some of you here. Carefully developed. Our city of Rochester has a history of progressivism. You've heard about that. Famous names that I won't repeat. And so I'm urging you to tap into that progressive history and to continue doing the right thing. Do the thing that has been done by many cities across our country: Seattle, San Francisco, Chicago, our own state capital, Albany, and that is to vote for a ceasefire. Lastly, my church is in Rochester, We have a food cupboard on our church lawn. We collect food every month and take it to Cameron Community Ministries right here in the city. And we know and we see people in our own building and elsewhere that are hungry. And so if nothing else will help us choose for ceasefire, I urge us not to use our money to drop bombs on people, but instead keep taxes, these taxes up, whatever you're. Thank you.
Aaron D'Amico. Natasha Rivera. Natasha Rivera is from the town of Dayton, followed by Iman Abdi.
Black and Latinos make up about 58% of the city's population, so we also make up the bulk of the city's poverty rate. While only 10% of the city's population living in poverty is white. A lot of the poverty here is due to systematic racism in our city's institutions. The first institution I would like to also address is our inner city schools. 57% of students in the city who are over the age of 16 cannot read above the 6th grade level. We know all too well that a lack of investment in our city students further perpetuates child poverty, in which Rochester is currently ranked number 5 in the nation. We know all too well that a low quality education is directly linked to racism, income inequality, underemployment, and a direct correlation to the prison industrial complex. I ask that you allocate all available resources to the enrichment of our city's educational system. The second institution is our local law enforcement. We know the type of racist values that are historically ingrained in the RPD's training. And far too often, I have personally experienced officers who are fine experts at agitating, instigating, and escalating for even the most minuscule of reasons. We're dealing with officers who, quite frankly, are not properly equipped to deal with the community in which they serve. And I demand they reform the RPD so that they operate at the highest level of professionalism and expertise, especially when making the very crucial decision to open fire on a population who's controlled by poverty and mental health problems. The last institution I want to mention is the city's pro-Israel propaganda machine. Remove the Israeli flag from in front of our county legislative building. It symbolizes a racist, terrorist, apartheid government that has no place in our city's democracy. I ask that you join the several other cities in approving a permanent ceasefire resolution in Palestine. To do otherwise is sending a clear message to the people that this panel endorses white supremacy locally and globally. The city of Rochester,
The town of Henrietta, and will be followed by Thalia Delta.
I'm standing here today as the daughter of a Palestinian parent and a mother who has lived here throughout 28 years of brutal Israeli occupation. A family who continues to live under Israeli oppression, including a cousin of whom was imprisoned, a healthy man with no charges, and was released unstable to walk and so malnourished and starved, brutalized by Israel. This resolution today symbolizes the dignity in which our lives should be treated with, in a time where Israel is ethnically cleansing my people. We stand so proudly with the people of Palestine. I am proud that the city of Rochester is considering the possibility for a resolution to affirm the humanity and dignity of Palestinians across Gaza, who have now experienced a genocide over these last 5+ months. We know that Rochester will join over dozens of cities if it so chooses to pass this resolution, and it has the potential to join 70 other cities who have already passed this resolution. There are people in the city who have lost family members due to Israel's ongoing airstrikes, and who now, in the midst of Ramadan, face death from starvation and dehydration, issues imposed upon by the Israeli regime. And with over 31,000 Palestinians now killed, and more than half of them being the population of children, resolutions like this are dire. This is a healthcare crisis because Israel has destroyed every hospital and has killed NICU babies when their lives could have been saved. This is a healthcare issue because every single hospital has been destroyed. This is a housing crisis because our homes have been destroyed.
And this is a food security issue. And I say that to you, Ms. Gruber, because Israel has starved the people of Gaza, and it is important for us to recognize that. This is a matter that is extremely important for every single city council member to take into their hands. You have the ability to stand up in the face of morality and choose to stand on the right side of history. Stand with us, the Palestinians in your constituencies. Free Palestine.
Gate will be followed by Evan Spindle.
This being an election year, I really hope enough Americans have had enough of being used by our government to continue enforcing global, colonial, racist occupation, violence, murder, exploitation, and oppression of fellow human beings who are just as deserving of safety and liberation as we are. Enough of the ruling class counting on our overwhelm and apathy to keep fueling their sadistic power games. Enough of infinite sums appearing out of thin air to rescue banks and billionaires, while the wealth-hoarding class bleeds us through every humanitarian and economic storm that comes, that they create. Enough of the systemic hate, imagined enemies and imagined wars, media propaganda telling us who to love, cancel, and fear. Meanwhile, the entire global population is doomed to suffer the effects of climate disaster in the days and decades to come, all due to the insatiable greed of the 1% profiting off the capitalist machine. Are we not yet sick enough of the ruling class stealing its citizens' tax money that could be used to drastically improve the lives of our own people to instead offer our unwanted military presence across the Middle East, the thinly veiled campaign to protect oil interests, now to rain down a genocide upon a population of innocent men, women, and children who have done absolutely nothing to deserve the onslaught, except to have been born in the way of their colonial overlords' genocidal agenda? We are expected to swallow the lie that Israel is targeting Hamas, while 5% of the civilian population has now been injured or murdered, when only 7 to 8% of the current population even voted for Hamas in the last election in 2006. And at least 40% of the population is under 14 years old. We're expected to close our eyes to their forced starvation and eradication, close our ears to the endless screams of mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, and children, close our minds to the media's abysmal logic and shameless lies, and close our hearts to the words never again. What is written in your resolution falls tragically short of even beginning to address the physical, mental, and emotional repercussions of the Holocaust the world watched in real time. Until you are advocating for an immediate and permanent ceasefire, you have your writing to do.
Evan Spindling from the town of Pittsburgh, will be followed by Dwight Robinson.
Hello, my name is Evan Spindling, and I'm here tonight as a member of the Jewish community. I'm also a proud member of Temple Bethel, and I've been a member of Bethel my entire life. I want to be clear that I'm not here to represent the views of the synagogue, but rather explain briefly who I am and what I believe. I grew up in the city of Rochester, attended public school, also attended Hebrew school. In the 1970s, waiting for my dad to pick me up in the Temple parking lot, I was routinely one of the last kids to go home. So I would stand in a deserted parking lot, or sometimes wait inside the unlocked door on particularly cold days. I never felt unsafe, forgotten maybe, but never unsafe. I took for granted the security I felt within the community in which I lived. I knew anti-Semitism existed, but it seemed pretty far from my reality. What a difference 50 years makes. Temple is locked up like a fortress. There is hired security for every occasion in our temple, even board meetings that may have 20 to 30 people in attendance. So now, unfortunately, my antenna is up. I try not to overreact and keep everything in perspective. But there is no doubt that the world we all live in is less safe. The world that I live in is even more less safe. And that is why I've chosen to speak here tonight. Insecurity as a Jew can be felt by overexpressions of hate and also by less subtle expressions of anti-Semitism. I think that is what we are dealing with here with the City Council resolution. Councilmember Martin, I've never heard of you until reading your resolution, so I decided to try to find out more about you online. When I visited your Facebook page, I wondered what your reaction was to October 7th, Hamas attack on Israel. I fully expected to see expressions of sympathy for the slaughter of unarmed, innocent men, women, and children, and the abduction of hundreds of innocent Israeli civilians. There were numerous posts about a whole variety of things after October 7th, but nothing about the unprovoked Hamas attack. I was further disappointed to see that your very first point.
I will ask, moving forward, that everyone please, on both sides, not interrupt at the very end. Let's just let the 2 minutes happen, and then we'll end the conversation there. Thank you.
I'm Dwight Robinson. All right, thank you. This is my third time speaking to the council. I want to start off and say the veneer of socialization is terribly thin. Good evening. I'm Dwight Robinson, founder of Rochester United for Fair Reassessments. I met many homeowners, renters experiencing the same concerns and fears that I had. We have met multiple times and could only come up with one solution: a pause. Rochester is amazing because of its people and their contributions. Increased property values have an impact on our insurance rates, rents, and health. Because a lot of people, when they got that letter on December 5th, they felt about patient. All right. So that's how it affected health. A handful of people were in charge of assessing 65,000 properties in a short time. Anyone in the city, anyone could be a city appraiser with a few classes. The city appraisers did 5-minute drive-by assessments. The results of their drive-by assessments are 68% average increase in all properties and a projected $3.2 billion in revenue for the city taxes. That's where the revenue is for the city. We're not expecting to pay nothing or avoid increase of property values, but increases don't make any sense. They are up 100%, 200%, and in some cases 300%. We're asking for a 2-year pause on the process for the people of Rochester. The town of Arundecoit listened to its residents and paused. During the pause, the assessors took their time and appropriately assessed the properties to reflect what they are actually worth. Today, Arundecoit has one of the state's best value markets to buy in and live in. I had the deputy assessor, Enza Minio, repeatedly call me "you people," and she said I'm a fear monger at one of the city meetings. That hurt my feelings. Check it out. The bid sounds great in name only, but it gives a lot of tax breaks. Rent's too high, ceasefire in Palestine now.
Time's up.
Leonardo Bertrand, Brooklyn Bianchi. Brooklyn Bianchi is from the town of Reed and will be followed by Devin Cleveland.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brooklyn Bianchi. I grew up in Rochester, and I just recently came back from Denver to take care of my grandma who has dementia. Now that I'm living here, all of these issues that I heard tonight, I scrapped what I wanted to say, and I want to say that coming back from Denver, the rent here is the same, and I don't know how that's possible. So anything that you guys can do to take care of the people of the city of Rochester and make sure that people have affordable housing and a high quality of life, I think that's what needs to happen. Just like everybody else in this room wants the people of the world to have the same human rights and quality of life that we all deserve. We all want to be safe. We all want our families to be safe. We all want other people to be safe because we all are connected. And at the end of the day, I'm here for a ceasefire. I am here to stand up for the people in Gaza. I'm here to stand up for the people in Palestine. I, as a person who lives in Rochester, New York, am affected every day with my mental health because of what's going on over there. I can't go about my life being a happy person, bringing joy to the people in my community, while sitting there feeling like I'm doing nothing, while there's people starving, while there's people being killed. And this isn't to say that the people of Israel don't deserve that same safety. This is about children being disproportionately murdered. This is about a genocide. And to sit here and watch and do nothing is wrong. And I just urge and ask every single one of you to take the time to look up your own statistics, look up the first-hand accounts of people who are there on the ground and see what they're seeing and what they're living. Would you want to live like that? Would you want your community to live like that? We, the global community, need to stand together and we need to prevent a genocide. And I ask you to do this, not because it's outside of your realm, but because it is within your realm. It affects people like us in this room, people of Rochester. It affects my mental health every day. And I ask that you do something about it because it is within your control. Having an opinion about this can change the world. And I need you to take a second.
Debbie Seeger from the town of Pittsburgh will be followed by Cindy Hertzberg.
I'm speaking on behalf of myself, Kelly Rosenblum, as well as Debbie Seeger. I would like to start by saying that the city council resolution really has no impact on anything overseas. In a time when we need to bring people together, this is just divisive. A divisiveness that I've heard here in this room over and over again with a lot of untruths. Why are we calling out Israel today? Have you called out Ukraine for defending herself? Defend the Israeli Defense Force, defending against unspeakable horrors of October 7th. I had the opportunity to hear these firsthand accounts by first responders at the UN in December. Their mangled bodies tell the story of rape and torture. Believe these women and girls. I do. I also believe the pain of my son's friend, Mia, who was among the first group of hostages that was released. I'm also speaking on behalf of Debbie, the executive director of Temple Beth-El, a synagogue that has been in the city of Rochester for over 100 years and considers itself an important partner in this community. Someone who just returned from Israel and heard and saw the situation. I stand here today to share the story of a Palestinian who grew up in Gaza. He shared his story when I was in Israel just 2 weeks ago. He said, Israel must keep fighting until they eliminate Hamas. If they don't, it will be a tragedy for all Israelis, but catastrophic for the Palestinians of Gaza. Here was a Palestinian speaking his truth, saying that destroying Hamas is critical for Palestinian security. The best thing for his family and friends in Gaza would not be a ceasefire, but rather the elimination of a terror group who is more concerned about the destruction of Israel than the safety and prosperity of its own citizens.
Will be followed by Nathan.
When I learned about the ceasefire resolution, I was gutted. I don't doubt the authors and supporters of this resolution care deeply about the innocent loss of life and all the accompanying horrors that impact the war-torn country. However, this resolution will do nothing to improve the lives of those impacted, but it tears at the hearts of the Rochester Jewish community, of which I am a part. I am one of the 80% of American Jews that feel an incredibly strong emotional connection to Israel. I and the vast majority of Jews here in Rochester have visited or have close family and friends in Israel. I viewed the council's publicly displayed resolutions issued since 2023, which focus on local, regional, and federal issues. Yet now, when this body chooses to speak about a foreign conflict, it selects one of, if not the most complicated conflicts in the world. A resolution that seemingly equates Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East, with Hamas, a terrorist organization that only a few short months ago slaughtered 1,200 innocent civilians. This resolution suggests that a ceasefire by both entities will miraculously stop the suffering, when Hamas has clearly told the world again and again their goal is the destruction of Israel. This resolution goes on to describe the military operation as an incursion, rather than what it is, an act of self-defense in response to massacring, targeting civilians. Thank you. You are wrong.
We're gonna pause. We're gonna pause. We're gonna pause. Ladies and gentlemen, please. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to. Ladies and gentlemen, given the interruption, we're gonna put another 10 seconds back on, and then Joe will start the clock. And then after that, we are gonna take a bathroom break, so, everyone, if we can get silence again in the room, just for a moment, please. We'll wait to begin again, until there's silence. Thank you so much, ma'am.
This resolution falsely refers to Israel as a system of legalized racial segregation. In actuality, more than 20% of Israelis are Arab, who hold some of the highest government offices, are judges, doctors, lawyers, business leaders, and members of the IDF. And Israeli Jews are not all white. I am a white Ashkenazi Jew of Eastern European descent, but unlike me, the vast majority of Israeli Jews are people of color. They descend from the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. Yes. Like all democracies, Israel is not perfect, but they strive to be the beautiful, welcoming nation they are. And this resolution is
So with that, while there was a disruption, it was right at time.
I am a proud Zionist.
Time's up.
And I am-
We're gonna take like at least a 5 minute break and policy is as quick as possible. That's what we're doing. Rochester.
I'm recording just so I don't want you. Oh, okay. He wants us to feed him.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if we can get back to our seats.
Are you making that?
I am. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue here. We have a few council members that may still be coming back, from the restroom. But hopefully we're all here voluntarily. But I would like us to continue and Deputy Clerk.
All right, so we're gonna pick back up with our next speaker, that's Nathan Hirschberg from the town of Brighton, and he'll be followed by Hanif Abdul-Wahid.
Check. My fellow Rochesterians, I am here today to share with you one message. This is to inform everyone in this room on what the term systematic anti-Semitism means. Systemic anti-Semitism is a term that perfectly sums up what the anti-Israel rhetoric is constructed of. It is a term that unfairly and often unconsciously targets the Jewish state and the Jewish people. It is the aftermath of generational Jewish hate that we've all been witness to. I appreciate much of what Stanley has written in her message. What I cannot do with good conscience is support the contradictory resolution that was crafted 1 week after October 7th. The resolution which does not mention the hostages at all, and that suggests Israel is targeting civilians in violation of international law. Let's be clear, Hamas is targeting innocent civilians. Israel is targeting Hamas, the terrorist organization that occupies all of Gaza. All of Gaza. This is a war. And like every conflict in history, innocent people are suffering and dying. But to falsely claim, say this war or any Palestinian death during this war is a targeted attack on civilians. An example of the bias I'm referring to as systemic anti-Semitism. If the IDF wanted to wipe out Gaza, they would have done it already. As we speak, there are over 100 ongoing conflicts taking place around the world. People have said that Yemen, Syria, hundreds of thousands of innocent people have died. Where is the ceasefire needed? There is one simple answer: systemic anti-Semitism. To say that Israel disproportionately attacking back, or what our generation now is referring as genocide, for lack of better words, is despicable. It would be the same to say our allied forces committed genocide when they invaded Germany in 1940s, because the number of dead Germans vastly outweighed those of dead Americans. After one of the most horrific terror attacks in history, I would ask you, what should Israel do? There is one thing preventing another Holocaust, and that is the Israeli Defense Force. There are 28 organizations, there is one Jewish state. You're not dealing with a civilized government. You're dealing with a terrorist organization. How many more Palestinians must suffer until Hamas surrenders and gives their
He been all night.
Anytime should have never happened to that.
Okay, he gotta go. He gotta go.
Say right, y'all know it's not, they've been doing it the whole time. Every single time y'all have targeted people for the behaviors, it's been us. They've been displaying the same behaviors, y'all know that's not right.
Guys are racist.
Y'all know that's not right.
I'm a racist. You guys will let white people say whatever they want to say about You can go back right now.
Hanif Abdul-Wahid.
Oh.
Michael Spivak. Cal Spivak. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? So. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. As a proud American and a proud Israeli, I dream of the day that this war will end. And as a human, I am devastated. My friend was murdered in a brutal and sickening terror attack by Hamas on October 7th. Hamas is a jihadist terror group committed to wiping Israel off the map
and killing all Israelis, killing all Jews, and believe me, they will not stop there. They have openly stated this multiple times. They don't care how many Palestinians die in the process. Hamas has ruled Gaza for more than 15 years and could have built Gaza to be the envy of the world, but instead, Hamas keeps the people of Gaza in poverty and has continuously used billions of dollars in aid, concrete, and other resources to build terror tunnels and rockets aimed at Israeli cities. Hamas has broken every single ceasefire that it ever had with Israel. There was a ceasefire in place on October 6th, and there was no Israeli presence in Gaza when Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, murdering families in cold blood, taking hundreds of civilians as hostages. There can be no excuse for taking babies, women, and elderly as hostages. Do not demand a ceasefire while 134 innocent civilians, Arabs and Jews alike, are held hostage by the brutal terror group. Do not demand a ceasefire when any Palestinian who tries to oppose Hamas is threatened or killed. And most of all, do not demand a ceasefire when Hamas vows openly to commit many more crimes like October 7th. This resolution is a perfect example of the double standard that is unfairly being applied towards Israel. A vote for a ceasefire is a vote for terror and brutality, which is why I urge you all to oppose this resolution. Focus on the important pressing issues that are affecting your local Rochester constituents. Poverty, crime, education, these are all the things that you can make an impact on. Thank you.
Meredith Dragon. Tom Brighton, and will be followed by James Munson.
Did you do James Thompson? Did she go James
My sweater says peace in Hebrew, shalom. There's nothing that I and many of us in this room want more than peace. Peace in our community and for our families, peace for the 134 remaining hostages, 8 of whom are American citizens, and one, the brother of a Rochester resident, held by Hamas for more than 5 months, and peace in the Middle East. The Rochester City Council ceasefire resolution is not peaceful, as we've seen here tonight. This resolution has the exact opposite effect. It brings division and hate to our communities. It does not create peace in Israel or in Gaza, and it endangers our Jewish community, and this is far from peace. Your city council mission statement reads, the office of the city council supports the city of Rochester's mission, vision, and values, and governs the city through the enactment of local laws, ordinances, and resolutions. The mission of the city of Rochester is to make Rochester the best mid-sized city in the United States in which to live, raise a family, visit and grow a business. Our city will be renowned for its safe neighborhoods, vibrant economy, educational excellence, customer service, and commitment to equity. Nowhere does it say that the Rochester City Council takes positions on international matters. That is the responsibility of the federal government. Taking time from important work like tonight is a terrible distraction and one that has no positive impact on our community or Israel and Gaza. If you're prepared to take on this international issue that pulls our community apart, are you also prepared to sign resolutions about the war Russia is currently waging on Ukraine, where more than 500,000 people have been killed and 5.2 million Ukrainian refugees are scattered around Europe? Or the 287 elementary students kidnapped last week in Nigeria. Gunmen are threatening to kill them if a ransom is not paid. Or the Sudan, where more people have died in the last 3 years than any conflict, and where nearly 6 million people live as refugees. Or the Uyghurs, a Muslim minority in China, where more than 1 million people have been tortured, subjected to forced labor, religious restrictions, even forced sterilization. China has committed genocide against the Uyghurs. Syria, Taiwan, Venezuela, and Iran, I could go on and on, but you get the picture. If you're not interested in passing resolutions about these major world conflicts happening right now, and yes, there are refugees from these places in our community right now, you need to ask yourself why.
Your time is up.
Munson, James Munson. Sharon Gray. Daniel Cannell. Daniel Cannell is from the town of Brighton and will be followed by Brandon Dees.
Hearing?
Yes.
I am disheartened that Rochester City Council is still considering adopting a resolution demanding a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas that places the blame for the ongoing crisis in the region on Israel.
This resolution does not condemn Hamas as a terrorist organization, does not place the blame for the current war in Gaza squarely on Hamas, for initiating the war on October 7th and breaking the standing ceasefire that was already in existence. The resolutions also do not recognize that 8 American citizens held Hamas captivity, for the 19 young women remaining in Hamas captivity who have been raped and tortured, many of whom are believed to be pregnant from these sexual assaults. The resolutions are anti-Semitic at their core. They demonize, delegitimize, and apply double standards of 3 Ps of anti-Semitism. If resolutions are adopted, the city council will be empowering terrorist sympathizers and Jew haters. I understand there's an argument for the disruption being caused by the Jew hatred pro-Hamas protests will go away if these resolutions are quietly and quickly adopted. However, history has taught us anything is that hate does not go away when appeased. It only goes stronger, more virulent, and dangerous. City Council would better serve those who care about the city of Rochester by using its valuable time and energy to, as it has been doing in the past, address effectively some of the problems we have right here in Rochester: crime, gun violence, poverty, need for affordable housing, the list goes on and on. Resolutions like these promote anti-Semitic lies and foster and encourage hate. Pro-Hamas protesters are serving the agenda of those who would rather divide us than bring us together. Just imagine if City Council does not consider resolutions over subjects it has no jurisdiction or authority over, and instead it focuses valuable time and energy on pressing local needs in front of them. Most of those in this room could then find common ground to work together to solve local issues and of local importance instead of arguing the matters of board policy, an area that the City Council has no jurisdiction over. I'd much rather work together to solve the problems we have in front of us than to divide us by resolutions we have no authority over.
Brandon Deeb, Debit. Jocelyn Scheibel. From the town of Victor.
Yes.
Will be followed by Anna Patul.
If Hamas put down its weapons, there would be no more violence. If Israel put down its weapons, there'd be no more Israel. Israel is fighting for its survival. You speak of a disproportionate response. If Canada or Mexico were doing proportionately to us what Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon are doing, the equivalent of over 40,000 Americans would already have been murdered, raped, captured, or kidnapped, with hundreds of missiles fired into our communities daily. Imagine that happening here. What if the rest of the world was telling us to stop fighting, put down our weapons, let our country and our people be destroyed by those vowing loudly and proudly to kill every last one of us? Because that is what Hamas, Hezbollah, and the rest of the Islamist terrorist brethren want. They will not stop until Israel is gone and every Jew is dead. Another old saying, when someone says they want to kill you, believe them. And Christians, because you too are infidels. They hate you only slightly less than they hate the Jews. American values make them sick, especially the liberal values. We're proud of stuff. They hate the very thought of women driving, being educated, becoming professional. They treat their LGBTQ sons and daughters with shame and banishment, or worse. They defile Christian holy places and defame the American icons. The Israeli flag's already been stopped on our pro-Hamas supporters here in our city, and don't be surprised when the American flag comes next. No innocent child deserves to die, but for Hamas, every dead Palestinian child is another media victory to blame on Israel, even if those children die because their nursery school is a Hamas arsenal for missiles firing into Sderot or Ashkelon or Ashdod. You can die.
Anna Patul. Richard Markin. Richard Markin is from the town of Pittsburgh and will be followed by Sofan Jabir.
Well, tonight's theme is, tonight's theme is ceasefire, right? Ceasefire now.
And for ceasefire now, I assume that most people here are thinking that they want a ceasefire because they're concerned about innocent deaths of Palestinians. Ceasefire now for Hamas means something different. They don't really care about Palestinian deaths. They like Palestinian deaths, civilian deaths. What ceasefire now means for them is a retention of power in Gaza. That's what they want. They want to stay in power. They don't want to be wiped out in the southern part of Gaza. Hamas leaders have said that they plan to do October atrocities again and again. They're not concerned about a two-state solution. They just want a one-state solution. Their charter calls for the destruction of the state of Israel and the murder of all the Jews in the world. A recent plan proposed by the United States, Egypt, Qatar, and other countries called for a 6-week pause. The release of approximately 40 hostages and hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. A major humanitarian aid to Gaza. Israel accepted. Hamas has not. I encourage the city council to oppose this resolution.
Well, conduct in the town will be followed by Sydney Collins.
Turn around, Rob. Turn the whole thing, yep. There you go.
My name is Sofian Jabber. Good evening. I'm not just from the town of Greece. I was all my life in the city of Rochester. I was born and raised in Rochester, New York, to immigrant migrants, mother and father of Palestine. And I just want to say this is all about humanity at the end of the day. Let's forget the whole Zionist Israel state. Okay, I myself am Palestinian American. That most of my life I grew up in Conkey Avenue, St. Paul, Clinton Avenue, in the worst areas. But I went there with peace and love. Therefore, the neighborhoods accepted me. Now Israel goes into Palestine with genocide, with hate, with apartheid. You know what I'm saying? And that's why. And they want to say that we're the only Israel state between all Muslim countries. Maybe you guys don't belong there if you guys don't feel comfortable. Maybe if you guys did the right thing, people would welcome you with open hearts. You know what I'm saying? We as the Palestinians do not hate Jews. We love Jews. Jews are our family. They're our friends. Okay? It's the Zionist racist regime that we hate. So please, vote for a ceasefire. Okay? And if you don't want to vote for a ceasefire, then just stop arming Israel. And us Palestinians will free ourselves from Israel. We don't need nobody to back us up. We can back ourselves up. To stop funding Israel. That's all we ask at the end of the day. I'm Palestinian American, and I was a proud American. I grew up in Palestine, and they would accept me because of what America does to the state of Palestine. Okay, so please let me remain to be a proud Palestinian American. Okay, before I just, honestly say back to Palestine I go, and it's Hamas. It's not Hamas. It's Hamas that are freedom fighters. Okay, but they're running. Free Palestine from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free.
Can you get order back in the room, please?
Sydney Collins. Jesse Vita. Jesse Vita. Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is from the town of Brighton and will be followed by Jackie McGriff.
My name is Jacob Wall, I'm here speaking on behalf of Matt Ryan with this.
Excuse me.
If that's okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not allowed to allow speakers to speak on behalf of the city. Can't keep that.
Did our?
Jackie McGriff here. Jackie McGriff is from the town of Chi-Line and will be followed by Dania Beck.
Alright, so y'all hear Rebecca?
Yeah.
Alright, cool. Alright, so, hello, council members. Regarding the business improvement district, I want to focus specifically on the people. That is why you ran for this seat, to represent the people. What the rich property owners who are on the RDVC are interested in are not the people, but rather to fill their pockets with more money at the expense of residential tenants as well as small business owners. All over the country, we are seeing the mandatory fee for having a bid that's passed to landlords is forced upon tenants, which we see time and time again drives residents and business owners out. These same property owners would bring in the same bland franchises that we're seeing all over. We don't need another Starbucks, who we are boycotting, by the way, because they are against union buildings, which are for the people, and fired employees who dared to speak out for a ceasefire and a free and unoccupied Palestine. We would not be looking at these situations if there was no occupation of Palestine by the state of Israel since 1948. Getting back to small businesses, they are the heart and the backbone of our community. Our people are the backbone and heart of our community. Do not advocate for or vote for this bid. Advocate for the people. It's people over profit all day, every day. It's people over profit. Right now, while our government continues to fund the Israeli occupation force's salaries and universal health care, which we have yet to see in this country, with our tax dollars, they are sending military aid and weaponry to Israel so that Israel can continue bombing entire Palestinian bloodlines, forcibly starve Palestinians, and putting Palestinian men, women, and children into prison for either no reason or daring to resist occupation. So if you're going to release the hostages, you free the Palestinian prisoners. Resistance is justified when people are occupied. Stop the bid, put pressure on our state and federal reps for a ceasefire now, support the vacancy study, and pause the assessment. Free Palestine.
From the town of Gates, who should be followed by Amber James.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Dorothy.
I want to start by saying free Palestine from the terrorist state of Israel. My name is Zach, and I'm 22 years old, and I'm a daughter of first-generation Palestinian immigrants. I refuse to be silent on the horrors Israel has committed against my people. My family was forcibly pushed out of their homes in 1948 in the capital of Palestine, which is Jerusalem, by the Zionist terrorists and colonizers who stole their homes and reclaimed them as their own. Israel was created by the burning and the pillaging of Palestinian villages. Israel was created by the murder of our men, our women, and our children. They raped our women and stuffed our children in ovens. Israel's life looking today was to be the confession of their own crimes. There has been an ongoing and nonstop occupation of Palestine since 1948 and has altered Palestinian lives for generations. We Palestinians have not known anything at the cost of the racist and apartheid Israeli regime that has built and continue to build their false statehood on the blood and on the graves of indigenous Palestinians. Today, the violence by the hands of the Israeli government is only escalating further, killing in cold blood, murdering in cold blood over 30,000 Palestinians in Gaza, men, women, and children whose only crime was ever being a Palestinian. It is not a crime to be Palestinian, it is an honor to be Palestinian. I'm not scared to stand up here and stand for my country. I feel so much empathy for my people because I know what they go through. I live in Palestine, I see it with my own eyes, the racism, the colonialism, how they steal our land. Oh, I thought it was how they steal our land and they continue to lie and lie and lie. This is not about being a Jew, this is not about being a Muslim, it's about being a human. You don't go steal.
Before the next speaker, I would like to, ask, please, everyone in the room, if you could address council. This is speak to council, and we would appreciate if you would address the council moving forward.
Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me?
Yes.
So, I won't be complicit in genocide. What about all y'all? Next up, I want all of you, I'm sure you all know a 6-year-old girl. Be one of your own children, grandchild, niece, daughter of a loved one or a friend. And I want you to think of them as I tell you this story. This is the story of Kim Reggie. She was a 6-year-old Palestinian girl. She watched her entire family be killed around her and attacked by Israeli forces as they were trying to flee Gaza. Her story went viral when she spent 3 hours on the phone with the Red Crescent workers begging for people to come rescue her. After her cousin was heard identifying tanks surrounding them and calling silent after a single scream. After 3 hours, the phone conversation is cut off and nobody knows exactly what happened after that. An analysis of satellite images shows that there were 3 Israeli tanks surrounding the car under 1,000 feet away from the car, with their guns pointed directly at her.
Can I pause for a moment? Folks in the hallway, if you can hear me, please, or can we close the door, security? Thank you. I'll give you another 5 seconds before I give you back. I just want to make sure we can hear you. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Thank you.
The car was riddled with bullet holes once rescue services approached without harm. Ambulances tried approaching the car previously to allow them to rescue her after they had to beg the Israeli military for hours to even allow an ambulance anywhere near the car. The 2 ambulance workers were later found with their bodies completely mutilated, and the ambulance was destroyed and ran over by a tank. Imagine now, if Kim was that little girl that I told you to imagine at the beginning of this. Can you imagine how terrified she would be? Her entire family was dead. She was begging to be rescued, and instead she became one of the over 12,000 children that have died as a result of this genocide. The tank fire that killed Kim and her? Likely one of the emergency tank ambulance supply shipment orders that Biden approved that we sent to the Israeli military. And that is anything to do for him. Approved resolution MR001024, ceasefire now, free Palestine. All we're asking is, in the words of Aaron Bushnell, don't be complicit in genocide.
Matthew Gould. Matthew Gould here. Paul Soul. Jules Reinhardt. Seja Jaber. Seja Jaber from the town of Greece. And will be followed by Gail Snyder.
I just want to say, I know everyone's tired and they're ready to go home, and I'm sorry that this genocide is being such an inconvenience to all of your lives. I want to say Ramadan Mubarak to all the Muslims in here. We are fasting throughout the day to appreciate the pain of hunger while our brothers and sisters in Gaza are left without food or water at home and are facing relentless bombardment and have been facing ethnic cleansing for not only the past few months, but for over 75 years at the hands of the Israeli and American governments. Here we are still fighting for their right to exist. As our loved ones in our land are being annihilated, we are forced to live with the legislators who post their empathy for Israel and fly this terrorist state's flag outside of legislative buildings, but show no empathy for Palestinians, even though over 30,000 Palestinians have been murdered, half being children, and thousands more under the rubble right now. We are begging for the calling of a ceasefire as we're tired of seeing our people enduring the genocide right before all of our eyes. As City Council, I am urging the immediate call to a ceasefire and for our complicity in this genocide to come to an end. We are tired of seeing children get their limbs amputated with no anesthesia. We are tired of seeing our people starve to death. And if they're not being bombed now, they are being killed by the fatal way that they are dropping aid on their people with no parachutes, just straight down from airplanes. Ceasefire now, and from the Jordanian River to the Mediterranean Sea, Palestine will be free.
Gail Snyder. Gail Snyder here.
Mr. President, if you would, I just want to, acknowledge your, handling of this meeting tonight. You did a wonderful job, sir, and I just want to acknowledge that. And staff, the police officers, security, every one of you, we got through, over 150 speakers here tonight. Regardless of where you are on this issue, the fact of the matter is all of your voices matter. And we wanted to make sure that all of your voices were heard. I want to thank you, Mr. President, for how you handled this, and staff and everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much.